Iran has distanced itself from compliance on a number of fronts, and there are many steps in that process. I mentioned a couple of them, consulting with our allies, consulting with our partners, consulting with Congress before we're reaching the point where we're going to engage directly with the Iranians.
Negar Mortazavi, sorry about that, is a columnist for The Independent. She joins me now from Washington, D.C. Hi, Negar, it's good seeing you again. So the U.S. says reduce your production. Before we come back to the table, Iran is kind of saying the opposite. Why is Washington taking its time rather to come on board on this issue?
Well, I think what we're seeing on both sides, and part of this is playing to the domestic politics of each side, both in Tehran and Washington, is to try to not look weak in front of the other party, which essentially both sides consider each other adversaries. So it's the moderate camp or the pro-diplomacy camp in Tehran, who's basically an outgoing administration and 6 more months left, and they have been weakened in the Trump years. Their position is that they don't want to seem weak in front of a U.S. administration, considering that the previous administration sort of left a nuclear deal that the Iranians were abiding by. I think here on this side also we have a situation that the Biden team has just entered the White House. There's been 4 years of turmoil with the Trump administration, and now there's this spirit of trying to unite the country here in Washington, unite the United States. So I think it's this optics or the domestic side of it of trying to not look weak when it comes to the Iranian side. But I think what's important is that both sides have signaled to this day that they want a return to diplomacy and eventually to the nuclear deal and the negotiating table.
There's a Reuters report hours ago, headlines: Iran deepens breach of nuclear deal at underground enrichment site. What is the timeline here? Are there reports that say that Iran could be months or even weeks away from creating a nuclear weapon? What is the timeline for the U.S. to come back on board on this?
Well, actually, let me make a note. It's not a nuclear weapon. It's enough material that could be used for a nuclear weapon. And it's months, as we have seen nuclear experts saying, because Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapons program as we speak. It's under very strict inspections by the International Nuclear Watchdog, but it's the actual material that could potentially be used. So what we see on the Iranian side and also the U.S. side is both sides are trying to use sort of a leverage as far as giving a deadline to the other one. The U.S. obviously is delaying sanctions relief, which is something the Iranians want happening very quickly. And also the Iranians are trying to loom this deadline over U.S. and also other parties in the deal that they are going to start reaching more of the limits of the nuclear deal. So I think it's more of a pull and push game at this time, and how the Europeans and the other parties of the deal can step in to sort of, as also the Iranian foreign minister said, choreograph a mutual return or full compliance to the nuclear deal again, which is what both sides want, despite the comments that we're hearing coming from the two capitals.
Speaking of the Europeans, has the U.S. shown any hesitance in accepting EU support on this issue?
Well, we have heard some comments from senior officials in the U.S. that it's not time yet to sort of have that direct contact. But I think all along, at least on the Democratic side or the Biden team, we've seen this push for more multilateralism, for more cooperation with global actors, and specifically U.S. as allies, the closest allies in Europe, which is exactly a departure from the policies and basically the strategies of the Trump administration. So I think there is going to be more room for European roles to play and for European help when it comes to this issue of U.S.-Iran diplomacy. And without European help in the first place, there wouldn't be a nuclear deal or JCPOA. So there definitely needs to be that kind of help. And I think that there is a reception when it comes to the current White House and administration as far as that help from the European Union.
Negar Mortazavi, we appreciate your time on this. Thanks.